Film buffs get a lot of flack for watching really weird and avant-garde films and then pretending they're interesting. But in order to really get into avant-garde art, you need to start slow and ramp it up from there. You can't just dive into the deep end, you need to start in the shallow end. I've split cinema into 5 stages of art house strangeness, so join me as we dive into the depths of the avant-garde. Starting with stage 1, moving past popular films and into the strange, there are films like Breathless, which was much more experimental in 1960 than it is today. But the editing of Breathless is still surprising, even if the originality of the style is no longer there. Blue was released in 1993 and features the voice of director Derek Jarman over a solid blue background.
The silence might be broken by distraught visitors screaming, "Help, sister, help, nurse," followed by the sound of feet rushing along the corridor. Then silence.
Blue stands as a powerful meditation on collective and personal loss, paying tribute to the countless lives lost during the AIDS epidemic in the 1980s. It's Such a Beautiful Day completely changes the visual nature of film through stick figures, while also remaining digestible to the average viewer. Angel's Egg sticks to a much more typical style of animation, but drowns it in a sea of silence and darkness. The Wolf House also uses animation to enhance its unusual style, using stop motion to create a feeling like no other film out there. A Ghost Story also falls into the category of quiet meditations. These films are outside of the ordinary because of their slow pace and unorthodox storytelling, putting themes and atmosphere over action. Like The Wolf House, The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Eggers, uses the genre of horror to explore the limits of mainstream filmmaking through abstraction and terror. Fear is the emotion that is perhaps most connected with surrealism, which lends horror an advantage when it comes to experimental art. Of course, you could go in the complete opposite direction and replace horror with whimsy. Celine and Julie Go Boating is a delightful film about 2 women becoming friends, while also engaging in some light supernatural activities. Like The Lighthouse, Celine and Julie Go Boating is hard to make sense of, but the goal of the film isn't to understand the story. If The Lighthouse is a puzzle box, then Celine and Julie Go Boating is a magic trick. You're not supposed to understand the movie. You just sit back and enjoy yourself. Moving on to stage 2. The films in this stage are much stranger, but still within the realm of conventional filmmaking. Persona, directed by Ingmar Bergman. Persona delves into the complexities of identity and psychological fragmentation. As you move deeper into experimental films, the movies become more and more surreal. From What Is Before is directed by Lav Diaz, and it challenges the viewer's perception of time and narrative. Known for its epic length of 5.5 hours, From What Is Before immerses viewers in the rhythms of rural life, while also exploring ideas like political upheaval and collective trauma. The slope of avant-gardeness is to descend into the human mind, which results in stranger and stranger stories. One of these stories is the 1979 film Stalker. Directed by Andrei Tarkovsky, Stalker is a Soviet film built on philosophical depth and visually poetic cinematography. The use of long takes, symbolic imagery, and deeply allegorical storytelling creates a dreamlike atmosphere which is common in some of the best avant-garde films. But this dreamlike feeling can be flipped into a nightmare, and that nightmare is called Skinamarink. This film embodies the avant-garde ethos most directly, with unconventional narrative structures, experimental visual techniques, and a willingness to change and even deliberately go against audience expectations. Next are 2 documentaries that touch on something core in the human experience and show how even documentaries, which are viewed as which are often viewed as objective, can be twisted.
The first image he told me about was of 3 children on a road in Iceland in 1965. He said that for him it was the image of happiness, and also that he had tried several times to link it to other images, but it never worked. He wrote me, "One day I'll have to put it all alone at the beginning of a film with a long piece of black leader. If they don't see happiness in the picture, at least they'll see the black."
Sans Soleil is a movie that defies traditional categorization. The film is a poetic meditation on memory technology and modern human. The film is a poetic meditation on memory and technology. Blending real documentary footage and fictional travel accounts, Sans Soleil creates a mesmerizing collage of images and ideas that challenge viewers to reconsider their understanding of reality and objective representation. The last film of Stage 2 is Koyaanisqatsi. Koyaanisqatsi is a visually stunning cinematic essay on the imbalance between nature and modern society, and how both of them are 2 sides of the same cosmic form. Stage 2 has a reoccurring theme, and that is the difference between nature and humanity. You see it in Koyaanisqatsi, Sans Soleil, Stalker, From What Is Before. I think that the human mind is very much tied back to its natural roots, and this expresses itself most directly in surrealism, where we often find ourselves journeying back to something primal. Descending deeper into the mire, we reach Stage 3. At first, there's more of the same, starting off with Mirror, another film directed by Andrei Tarkovsky. Mirror is a deeply personal and introspective journey in the human mind that blurs the boundaries between dreams and reality. Tarkovsky's signature meditative style, characterized by long takes, symbolic imagery, and non-linear storytelling, creates a hypnotic and deeply powerful atmosphere. The other film to kick off Stage 3 is Satin Tango, directed by Béla Tarr. Satin Tango is the monumental work of Hungarian cinema, known for its epic length and apocalyptic aesthetic. Tarr's meticulous attention to detail, deliberate pacing, and stark black and white cinematography create a haunting portrayal of rural life. Satin Tango isn't a literal portrayal of its setting, but is rather a physicalization of the modern world, drowning in mud. Rather than drown in mud, Enter the Void by Gaspar Noé drowns in a wave of neon and strobe lights. Enter the Void is a hallucinatory journey into the depths of the human psyche. Noé's visually audacious style, filled with frenetic camera work, strobe effects, and neon-soaked visuals, creates a disorienting and immersive experience. Enter the Void explores themes of life, death, and the afterlife through its provocative narrative and imagery, and avant-garde aesthetics, most notably in the fact that the entire film is shot through the eyes of its main character. As I was moving ahead, occasionally I saw brief glimpses of beauty, directed by experimental film legend Jonas Mekas. As I was moving ahead is a mesmerizing mess of intimate moments and everyday observations in Mekas' jumbled documentary style. Mekas' diary films are characterized by handheld camera work and impressionistic editing, which creates a lyrical and nostalgic portrait of the filmmaker's life. Through its fragmented narrative and dreamlike imagery, as I was moving ahead, occasionally I saw brief glimpses of beauty, invites viewers to reflect on the fleeting nature of time and the beauty of ordinary moments that we often don't consider. At the very end of Stage 3 is a film called The Color of Pomegranates, directed by Sergei Parajanov. The Color of Pomegranates is a visually unique and shocking is a visually unique and incredibly strange exploration of 18th century Armenian poet and musician Sayat Nova. The sumptuous set designs, elaborate costumes, and surreal imagery creates a mesmerizing and tactile atmosphere. The Color of Pomegranates eschews traditional narrative conventions in favor of a series of tableaus. The jarring but beautiful style is something that all Stage 3's films have in common. In Stage 4, typical storytelling falls apart completely, and abstraction is given free rein. Starting off, we have my personal favorite of the next 3 films. Meshes of the Afternoon is the seminal work in American experimental cinema, released in... Meshes of the Afternoon is one of the greatest works in American experimental cinema, released in 1943. It's celebrated for its surreal narrative and groundbreaking cinematography. The film explores popular experimental themes like identity, memory, and the subconscious. The most striking feature of Meshes of the Afternoon is the film's odd but beautiful cinematography, which feels more akin to photography than film. Taking these black and white visuals a step further is Begotten. Begotten is an intense and controversial film that still is talked about today. Shot entirely in black and white and featuring minimal dialogue, it's a visceral and often disturbing journey about creation, destruction, and rebirth. Begotten holds nothing back. The film's raw and unsettling imagery, reminiscent of silent cinema, filled with biblical imagery, invites interpretation on multiple levels, from religious allegory to existential themes. Begotten remains a challenging and provocative work that continues to divide audiences with its uncompromising vision, something most art films can only dream of doing. But if Begotten was controversial, Un Chien Andalou, co-written and directed by Louis Buñuel and artist Salvador Dalí, was a nightmare. Sparking horror and discussion almost 100 years later, Un Chien Andalou is perhaps one of the most famous examples of surrealism in cinema. The film's disjointed narrative and shocking imagery, including one of the most infamous scenes ever filmed, which shows a razor blade slicing through a woman's eye, subvert traditional storytelling conventions and perhaps good taste. Drawing on the techniques of dream logic and free association, Un Chien Andalou explores human consciousness, and according to the directors, has no meaning. Un Chien Andalou translates to an Andalusian dog, a title which, like the rest of the film, has nothing below the surface. Stage 5. The weirdest of the weird. Here we find films that can only be called films because they were shot on a camera. The Amazonian Angel. This film is a bold exploration of surrealism and dreamlike imagery. Directed by an experimental filmmaker, it may delve into the subconscious mind, blending reality with fantasy in a visually striking and enigmatic manner. Though its unconventional narrative structure and experimental visual techniques, The Amazonian Angel challenges. Through its unconventional narrative structure and experimental visual techniques, The Amazonian Angel challenges traditional storytelling conventions and invites viewers to immerse themselves in a world of symbolic meaning and subconscious exploration. The last film in this video is from the god of experimental filmmaking, Stan Brakhage. Brakhage has made many brilliant films, but it's his magnum opus, Dog Star Man, that I want to talk about. Dog Star Man is a seminal work of experimental cinema, known for its innovative use of visual language and odd filmmaking techniques. The film is a meditation on nature, mortality, and the human condition, or at least that's what I've been told it is. Presented through a series of abstract, non-narrative vignettes, Brackage's use of rapid editing, multiple exposures, and hand-painted film strips create a visually stunning and strangely emotionally resonant experience that transcends traditional storytelling conventions. Dog Star Man invites viewers to engage with its material on a purely sensory and emotional level, encouraging them to explore the depths of the human experience through the language of cinema in a way that perhaps will never be done the same again.